This video was made possible thanks to my amazing patrons at patreon.com/magicalhacker. If you're not a patron and you would like me to make a video for you each month using your decks, become a patron today. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of GAVONY Township, the show where it's not about me and my decks, it is about you and your decks, whether you're a content creator that I'm collaborating with, whether you're someone that's won one of my giveaways, or whether you're a patron of mine at patreon.com/magicalhacker, where I do monthly videos for my patrons, including deck doctors, deck techs, deck images. So if you've seen that deck image layout I've been posting on Twitter, that type of thing I'm doing for my patrons as well, or obviously deck gameplay. For today's episode, we've got kind of a double feature, kind of a cool little combination of two of those things. So Unspokenblood submitted this Selenia Dark Angel deck for a deck doctor, but he also entered into my poll that I was doing on Patreon. So when he entered into that, we did the spin out of all the people who entered, and he ended up winning. So what I've done here is I've just combined the two. He said, you know, I would love for you to do a deck doctor on my Selenia deck, and then to play it as well. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a deck doctor here on this deck, and then we're going to play it with the changes included and see how it plays out. So if you haven't seen Selenia Dark Angel, kind of a weird commander, but I really like her, and I'll explain why here in just a second. Let me go ahead and read off this commander. 5 mana for a legendary 3/3 angel with flying. Not a great rate, but the ability here is we can pay 2 life to return Selenia Dark Angel to its owner's hand. Doesn't really seem that impressive, right? Doesn't really seem that great. But just with any free sack outlet, having a free life outlet can actually be pretty abusable. So with sack outlets, obviously, if you're sacrificing creatures, you can return those creatures, sacrifice them again, return them again, and do that over and over. With Selenia, the advantage is you can choose how low your life total is at any point in time. So for example, you've got a card like Repay in Kind in hand, and you've got enough creatures on the battlefield where you can deal 3 damage to each player. You can use Selenia's ability, make your life total into 3, and then attack with those 3/3s. After you've played out the Repay in Kind, make everybody else's life total that low, and you attack and kill everybody that way. Kind of a risky plan since you're trying to reduce your own life total. So if someone has like a lightning bolt or any type of instant speed burn, that can be a pretty big problem. But for the most part, people don't usually have those types of cards, so I don't think we should really worry about that all that much here in this deck. I'm excited to play test this one as well after we do the changes. So let's just go ahead, jump right into it, and we'll start here the way we always start. And that's by taking all the cards and combining them into one pile. That way we can kind of start working through cards and figuring out what's in the deck. That way we can decide what to add in or what to take out. So let's go ahead and start here. Starting off with Angel's Grace. And you know what? I actually want to take this, and I want to make this into 2 piles. I like being able to see the bottom card. Now, this is probably okay. So we've got here the first card here, Children of Corliss. So we can use this for life gain. I'm going to make a pile here for life gain because we don't want to have, like for example, when we were talking about that burn problem, you've got opponents who can potentially burn you out if you get too low in life total. Having an effect that allows you to instant speed gain a bunch of life, especially if it's the amount of life you lost this turn, can definitely be a huge help. We've got here Swords to Plowshares. This is another effect for gaining life, but more importantly, it's a way to get rid of creatures. We've got Hex Parasite. This is another life outlet. We can pay X equals 0, and then pay 2 life for that Phyrexian mana to remove 0 counters from target permanent. Not a problem. We can just pay 2 life however much we want. Sensitive Divining Top, this is a way that we can kind of set up our draws. Tentatively, I'm going to put it into the card draw pile, but of course, it's not exactly that. We've got Soul Ring, which goes into the mana side of things, but we also have here the Glacial Chasm, which is not a land. I kind of just saw that as I was looking through these lands. I noticed this one being over there. Oh, that's not a land that can produce mana, so we're going to go ahead and take that out. Put the Soul Ring in because it's so close in terms of what a land can do. So we've got here the next one that we're going to put into a pile is the Glacial Chasm. This one's pretty interesting. It makes us kind of get protected from creatures attacking us or any damage being dealt to us. So this is kind of the same pile as Children of Corliss, a way to protect ourselves from that instant speed burn, which again, not super likely, but we want to kind of protect ourselves from that whenever we have the chance. Some ramp here as well. We've got Orzhov Charm. So this one, I believe this is going to be some more spot removal, that second mode, being able to destroy target creature and lose life equal to its toughness. Not a bad idea. Sign in Blood for some more card draw. We've got Devour in Shadow for some more targeted destruction. Although, you know what? Some of these things, I know they help you lose life, but we've got a commander that can do that. And really, Selenia is not a huge, it's not a huge part of the deck. Like, we can lose life in other different ways, too. That Selenia doesn't really seem like super important for a deck like this. Shred Memory here is the next one we've got. This is a way to transmute. We can grab any number of 2-drops. So far, that's just some ramp, sign-in blood. Let me see here what else we've got. I'm going to put this here at the bottom of the 2s because I'm kind of curious to see what else there is in the 2-drop section that we'd want to grab with that card. Mine Excavation. It is a tutor though. Actually, you know, let me go and put that into a tutor pile. Mine Excavation, this is going to be Recursion, which is not bad. I like Conspire. It's not something you see too often, but I think it's a fantastic card. Blind Obedience, this is a way that we can use some life gain. It also makes things enter in tapped. I don't know how relevant that part is, but the Extort could be kind of cool. Vessel of Endless Rest. So this is more ramp. It also allows you to put a card from a graveyard on the bottom of its owner's library. So this one could kind of be, well, it's not really recursion because you're not getting that card anywhere where it's more playable. But it is ramp, so let's go ahead and put that into the ramp pile. Same thing with the Pristine Talisman. Kind of nice because it's life gain as well. Same thing with the Dark Steel Ingot and the Burnished Heart. Tainted Sigil, again, another effect just like that Children of Corliss. We've got Mortify, which is more spot removal. Cabal, Consul of Allocation. This one, to me, I would definitely put into that first category because we can gain a lot of life that way. Each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Yeah, I could put that here. Necropotence, this is definitely going to be in the card draw section. We've got Succumb to Temptation. Again, another point of card draw. We've got here the Wall of Blood, so that's going to be another way that we can, you know, choose to pay life if we'd like to. Vesper Ghoul, bit interesting here. It's not a great rate for a mana dork. 3 mana for a 1/1. It also, you have to pay 1 life for it. I'll put that into the ramp section anyways. Here we've got a way to draw cards, so we'll put that into the card draw section. Now, Tainted Remedy, this one's pretty interesting. This allows you to use a lot of effects in the deck that normally would be making you gain life, but you can use them to make your opponents gain life, and that way with the Tainted Remedy, they actually lose that life instead. So I'm going to put this into an other pile here at the moment because I'm not sure where else we can put it. Angel's Grace definitely fits into this category that we were talking about before. And now we can kind of split this up again into 2 columns, and that way we can see the front card. All right, Read the Bones, that's definitely card draw. We've got Demir Machinations. This is another transmute. We'll go ahead and put that into the tutor pile. Teferi's Protection, again, another effect similar to Angel's Grace we can put there. Same thing with the Phyrexian Unlife. Oblivion Ring, that's spot removal. Same thing with the Oblation. Forsake the Worldly, Banishing Light. Vidalcan Ori, this is a pretty unique effect. You don't see that a whole lot in most colors, but we'll go ahead and put that into a new pile. I'm not sure where exactly we would like to put this, although, you know what, it kind of fits into this category, and I'll explain what I mean in just a second. We've got effects like Repay in Kind. Where did I see that? Actually, we haven't put that into a pile yet. We've got effects like Repay in Kind where we want to make everybody's life total as low as ours. It does mean that we would have to, because it's a sorcery, we'd have to make our life total low at sorcery speed. Well, doing that means that we can have maybe a potentially whole round where people can do all sorts of craziness. We don't really have our mana to deal with that. So maybe it's better to get down the Vidalcan Ori and then instant speed cast the card similar to Repay in Kind at the end step before our turn, and that way we can use that type of card and have all of our mana available after we do it. So that's kind of one benefit here to the Vidalcan Ori. Other end, that's going to be another source of card slot removal. Lich, this is a card you don't see that often either. You lose life total equal to your life total. You don't lose the game for having 0 or less life. Yeah, so this definitely feels like it goes here into this pile. Diabolic Tutor, that's another tutor here. Stunning Reversal. This is another kind of protection-y spell. Greed is going to be some card draw. Same thing with Erebos. Demir Houseguard, that's another transmute card. Cryptghast. This one I'm going to put into the ramp pile because it does double up our swamp production. Ambitions cost. And Ancient Craving, both of those are going to go into the card draw section. They both draw you 3 cards and make you lose 3 life. Now, the Lost Auramancers, this one's kind of a source of tutoring, so we're going to go and put that there. This is some recursion with the Obsidat. And then Sanguine Bond. This one is a type of like infinite combo enabler. So let's go and put that with Tainted Remedy. That's kind of like a combo-y field there. Exsanguinate, this is just a way that we can gain a lot of life all at once. Now, Villas definitely goes into the card draw section. Repay in Kind. This is kind of like a combo-y card. Same thing with the Beacon of Tomorrows. Now, Bolas' Citadel, this was a pretty interesting one. We can use this and start paying a bunch of life to play cards off the top of our deck. I kind of like that one for card draw. Here's a board wipe. We'll go ahead and make another category here for board wipes, because that is a pretty important category. We'll go ahead and put Tragic Arrogance there as well. Near-Death Experience, this is going to go into the combo-y section. Same thing with the Exquisite Blood. Increasing Ambition, that is a tutor. There it is. Ad Nauseam, this one's definitely going to be a card draw, and I love Ad Nauseam here. We've got a lot of cool things that work really well with Ad Nauseam, so that should be pretty interesting. Blood Gift Demon. So this one is card draw. We've got Brain Spoil, that's another tutor. Demonic Collision, that's another tutor. And then Hatred, this is kind of like an infinite combo where, not really, let's say we're in 1v1 land where, you know, 2 of our opponents have died, we've got 1 opponent left, we've got Selenia on the field, they're not really afraid of her, so they just allow Selenia to get in. We can use Hatred and make it lethal commander damage out of nowhere. So that's kind of the deck here so far. We've got a lot of card draw, a lot of ramp, a good number of spot removal, which I guess kind of makes up for the fact that we're not super heavy on the board wipes, but in a lot of ways, I don't think we will need to do that here. We're trying to cheese it, all right? That's what we're trying to do with this deck. We're trying to cheese out the game. So let's go ahead. I think what I would like to do first is I would like to figure out what are some cards that we can add in. I think the first place I'd like to start with is I do want to go up at least... I'd like to get up to that 36 mark for lands. I mean, we've got a lot of things that could potentially be pretty expensive in terms of mana to cast. Like, we want to be able to play this Bolas' Citadel. We want to be able to play the Villas. I mean, this is 8 mana here. You know what I mean? That's not easy to play out at all. And we have that Repay in Kind. There it is, 7 mana. That's pretty expensive. We've got Beacon of Tomorrows, that's 6. Like, there's a lot of things in here that can be pretty heavy on the mana. So I do want to have at least 36 cards here in terms of lands. But besides that, I think after that, I'd like to continue to look for maybe some more cards for this category where we can kind of cheese them out with Selenia. The one card that I'm thinking of off the top of my head is the one that makes people lose for having a life total of exactly 13. I know it's not super likely, but depending on what else we have in the deck, we could potentially do that. So that's, I think, the first place I would like to start off with. Definitely a lot of room to take out here in the spot removal section. I know I have a feeling a lot of this is going to be used more so to protect our life total, but at that point I'd like to just put Pillow Fort in there. So right now I think 4 lands is one place I could start. So we start off with 4 lands. After that we go maybe 4 Pillow Fort. So we can drop 7 cards here. Actually, let's do this. Let's drop 6 cards. And I want to drop some of these cards a little bit more unique in terms of what we're using them for. So I think the life loss ones, those are pretty normal for us to get rid of here. I think Ablation is a little bit too much of a downside on that card. Utter End's a little bit too expensive. Forsake the Worldly and Banishing Light, both of these 2 cards, I think... Or, I'm sorry, not Forsake the Worldly, Oblivion Ring. Although, you know, these get rid of anything, but it is sorcery speed. I think I'd like to have Pillow Fort instead of these cards, more so than anything else. Let me think here. Is there anything else I'd like to have? I guess technically what I could do is I could drop some of these more unique, like pinpointed types of card or spot removal, and then instead go for more instant speed stuff. So we can add in cards like Mortify we have in here, but the other one I was thinking of was Anguished Unmaking. And then another one would be the, so let's see, Anguish Unmaking, and then the Spark, what is it called? Spark something. Spark Removal? I forget what it's called. Let me just look up Spark here. Nothing's coming up for Spark. That's a little interesting. Man, what is that card called? It allows you to exile target permanent with converted mana cost. Mana cost of like 4 or greater or 3 or greater. I can never remember. Let me see if this finds it this time, because I know I have it. This is weird. Exile target. Let me try this. Exile target permanent, and it might be non-land. So yeah, I think it's target. Well, it doesn't have to be, because you're not likely to have a land that has a CMC greater unless you have like one of those Ixalan like flip lands. Let me see if I can find it this way. Exile target permanent. See if I can find it, because I know I should be finding at least Anguish Unmaking this way. Here we go. D-Spark. It's weird that it didn't show up for Spark, but yeah, D-Spark. I could add that and the Anguish Unmaking here, and then, you know, drop the Forsake the Worldly and the Disenchant. Normally, I'm not a huge fan of, like, yeah, replacing spot removal with other spot removal. Like, I usually only make these Deck Doctor things for, you know, making the deck better, and, you know, whatever you want for a specific role, that's your decision. But I think in this category, it's really important for us to be able to get rid of artifacts, enchantments, and creatures, because you have no idea what's going to be a threat. You know, sometimes you'll have somebody play down, like, what's a good example? Burning Sands or Burning Earth. They get down one of those cards, and that could be a huge blowout for you. So you want to be able to deal with that, but of course you want to be able to deal with creatures as well. So it might just be important for us to be playing cards like Despark, like the Anguish Unmaking, which I think we actually should be finding here. If we scroll down, we might be able to find that one too. I'm not seeing it though. Anguish Unmaking, that's the one way that we can use to get rid of, target non-land permanents. We do have to pay 3 life to cast it, but for 3 mana at instant speed, I do not mind that at all. Let's keep going down here. We also have the Angelic Purge, which I don't think is actually, well, it's a sorcery, so that's obviously not that great. But we got the Anguish Unmaking here. So let's say we drop those. We keep the Source of Plowshares, the Mortify, and the Darksteel Mutation. We add those 2. That's not bad. It makes room for 6 cards here. We can start off with a couple of lands. I think the lands I'd like to start off first will be along the lines of some more color fixing, because I think that's what we're a little bit low on here. So let me take a look here. We've got Godless Shrine. We don't have the other card that's pretty cheap online. Obviously, this makes sense why. Well, actually, let's do this. I'm not going to be including the original Dual Lens, although I definitely could, just because I'm going to try to keep in mind that this is probably not going to be attainable to get that original Dual Land. And obviously, it's great, so that's not that big of a deal either. So we'll add in those 4 lands. I think I'll go ahead and start doing that now. Let's go ahead and do this. We're going to go ahead. I have Scryfall open. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to open up one of my lists here, and I'm going to open up color fixing. My color fixing list, because this one is one that I can use. And actually, it might be with land. It might not be color fixing. Here it is. MH lands. So we'll go ahead and go to this one. This is a great way that we can find some more untapped black and white sources without having to resort to fetch lands and all that stuff. It will be on this list, but we don't have to look at it that way. So let me take a look here what I've got here in terms of color fixing so I know what to add in. We've got Caves of Koilos. We've got City of Brass, Concealed Courtyard, Evolving Wilds, Godless Shrine, Isolated Chapel, Orzhov Basilica. We've got Shambling Vent, Tainted Field, Temple of Silence, and Terramorphic Expanse. So those are our sources. Oh, and we got Command Terror as well. So those are our sources of black and white mana. Let's see what else we can find to add into this deck. So I'm going to scroll down here. One of the nice things I like to do is just search for Orzhov, and that way I can find it right here. All right, so we've got a couple of lands that we can look at. Obviously, fetch lands are going to be an important part of that. We've got the Command Tower, Concealed Courtyard. Fabled Passage, I think, is going to be one of the cards we can add in. That's not going to be a problem. Fetid Heath, I think, is also reasonable for us to add in. We've got fetch lands. Again, we're going to try to skip over those because, again, I'm trying to go for effects that are more likely to be reasonable. Same thing with the Prismatic Vista. It's still like 30 bucks in paper, so Reflecting Pool, though, is a lot more reasonable, I think. It's only, what is that, 20? Oh, that's 20 bucks, actually. Yeah, that's a little bit too expensive for me, I think. So we got here Scrubland, Tainted Field, Verdant Catacombs, Windswept Heath. All right, so we've got all of our untapped sources. So what else could we add in that would be relatively low cost? That's a good question. We've got those 2. I guess we could always add in some of the cheaper fetch lands. Let me see what the fetch lands here, what they cost. So that one's 40 bucks. That one's 25. Oops, that's not a fetch land. Fledstrand, that's 20 bucks. Yeah, maybe all of these are just a little bit too expensive. 40 bucks here for that one. That's a 27. There's that 19. This one's 30. This one is not a fetch land. That one's 73. Holy moly. And then this one's not that expensive. Windswept Heath. So we've got the Fabled Passage. You know what's another one that I kind of like here? We'll go ahead and open this up on Scryfall. I kind of like Ash Barrens. So if you need to have it for color fixing, you can do that at the same rate as the Evolving Wilds and the Terramorphic Expanse. But if you just need the untapped land immediately, you can do that as well. So you got kind of the option of what you need. It can come into play untapped, it can produce the colors, it just can't do both. That's the only thing that's a little bit of a problem. But, ultimately, it's not as bad as it, could potentially be. So I think we can start off with these 3. And then after that, what else would I like to add in? Land tax, I don't know how reasonable in terms of cost that is. Let's just take a look at that. That might be expensive. Let me see if that is an expensive card. Normally, I'm not a huge budgety kind of person, but I think with the mana base, we can afford to be that here. That this one's pretty expensive. What about Weathered Wayfarer? Let me see if I can afford to put that into Wayfarer. Let me see if I can afford to put that one into the deck. I'm going to do that with the mana base because it's only 4 cards. Oh yeah, look at this. This is $3 in paper. That's yeah, for $3-4 here in paper. So that's really reasonable. This one's pretty nice because it allows you to find those extra lands that you might need. So why don't we do that? We're going to go ahead and add in Weathered Wayfarer, and then those 3 lands that I mentioned. We got Ash Barrens, Fabled Passage, and Fetid Heath. We don't have Fetid Heath in the deck, right? Yeah, we do not. All right, so let's go ahead. Did I misspell this? Aha, yeah, I did misspell it. I always misspell cards, especially when I'm doing a video. That's just how it works. All right, so we're going to go ahead. Weathered Wayfarer, going to go ahead and grab that, put that into the deck as well. And then I think the next category I'd like to add into might be actually the Pillow Fort. I think we'll need to start off with that next. Ash Barrens. Okay. Ash Barrens is next up on the list. And then Fabled Passage and Fetid Heath. I love those filter lands in 2-color decks because you're most likely going to have at least one of those colors. Not very unlikely. So you can get those other 2. You can get the other color twice if you need it. If you only have white mana and you need to have double black, Fetid Heath, bam, you're good to go. All right, so Ash Barrens here, and then I said Fetid Heath, and then the last one is the Fabled Passage. I wish there was a way here with filters to search for multiple cards at the same time, maybe using like an OR. And I don't think that works here. Let me just try it out. I know this is a little weird, but let me try this. Fetid Heath or Fabled. Let me just do it all caps, because sometimes it has to be all caps for it to work. Fabled Passage. Let me see if this gets 2 lands. Most likely it will not. Knowing how this works. Oh, it did get Fetid Heath by itself, but not the Fabled Passage. Did I misspell that? No. Huh, that's interesting. Fabled Passage, let's try this by itself. Because it should pop up. It should come up here. Yeah, there it is. I don't know what's going on. Maybe that OR kind of messed things up here and it just completely died. It didn't want to do anything. Alright, so we've got our spot removal, we've got our mana base kind of set up here. Again, normally I'm not a huge fan of replacing cards in the spot removal section, but I think these 2 cards are going to be so important to making sure our deck runs that I think it is important to add those in. Otherwise, I'd be keeping in the Oblivion and the Banishing Light. And really, the difference between having these at sorcery speed and having these at instant speed, that's huge. That is a huge thing. So I think that's why it's more important to do it this way. All right, so we've got room for 2 more. Let's see what else we can drop in so that we can add in. I think 4 sources of Pillow Fort should be pretty nice. That way, we're the only ones making our own life total go down. It's nobody else, right? It's just us. First of all, I do like having all these tutors in here. It might be a question of what are those, like which one of these are actually good for us to have. Like, do we have enough 2-drops for Shred Memory to be important or not? So that might be one category that we'll look at here in a second. But for right now, let's go ahead and take a look to see what else we can drop to add in some Pillow Fort. First of all, we've got 14 sources of card draw, which is normally pretty good, but you know, when we've got cards like Sign in Blood and Succumb to Temptation, or as Saffron Olive calls it, Scumble to Temptation, these only like replace themselves and give you 1 card, and that's like a one-time deal. Not that great of an effect. I like all these other effects a lot better. Read the Bones. I guess this one kind of fits in the same category too. I mean, you get to scry too, but really, is that important? Maybe not. Treacherous Blessing draws you 3 cards, right? Yeah, draws 3 cards, which is great. We've got Erebos, Ancient Craving. Yeah, the rest of these cards are not too bad. Now, obviously, Vilis is expensive, so we can maybe consider it more like these are our cards for card drawing. You know, Bolus of Citadel, we don't include that one. That gives us 9 total. If we don't include the Sensitive on top, that's 8. That's pretty good. So we don't really need to replace it with more card draw, especially that we've got this many tutors. I think we just want to find more Pillow Fort and more ways to actually use those tutors to our advantage. So why don't we do this? Let's take a look to find some Pillow Fort. And I'm going to do this again with one of my lists. So we'll go ahead and close out these 2 cards here because we've got those opened already in the deck builder. So now let's go ahead and scroll down. If you go to any of my lists, you'll find a little drop-down menu where you can click on any one of the other lists that you want to go to. So we're going to go ahead and go to Pillow Fort here and find a couple of great options for that. Off the top of my head, I do think that it's going to be probably involving Maze of Ith, Darksteel Mutation, and maybe the Citadel Siege. I usually like that one a lot. So let's take a look here. Attack Taxers, these are one of the best options. We've got Moat and Magus of the Moat. So we've got a commander that wants to attack, and it's got flying. So in this situation, Moat and Magus of the Moat might actually be okay. Those might actually be alright. Let's go and open those 2, although Moat I think is going to be it's $600. I'm going to pretend it doesn't exist for this video. Again, I could include it and play it, but what's Unspokenblood going to have? I mean, I'm pretty sure he's not like, oh, I didn't realize that the $600 card was good. You know what I mean? Like, that's not very likely to happen here. And then the other two cards are not in our colors. All right, so Attack Taxers. We've got Ghostly Prison, which I think is a fantastic card. In terms of creatures, like, I don't want to be playing a ton of creatures because, although I guess if we're playing creatures and someone wants to board wipe to get rid of them, like, that gets rid of the creatures that we're trying to protect ourselves like away from as well. But, you know, we might be the ones with the board wipe, so maybe that's not going to be as good. So why don't we do this? We're going to skip over the creatures, just look at the enchantment, artifact, creature options, unless, of course, it's an indestructible creature. That's a totally different story. Norn's Annex, this makes people pay life for it. Not super likely to matter, I think. Sphere of Safety, I think, is a good one that we can include here. Yeah, so this one, you know, makes a couple... Well, this is a creature, so why don't we just drop that Magus with a Moat here. It is normally a good card, but again, we're going to try to avoid the creature-based options. Try to go for more of the artifacts and enchantments, just so they stick around a little bit longer. We don't want to have the chump blockers. Those are pretty easy to get around. Although I did include them here just because, you know, might as well have them on here as an option. You never know who wants to have them and who doesn't. Chump blockers here at the top. Combat bottleneckers. So this makes it harder for opponents to attack us with a lot of creatures. Sometimes that is relevant, sometimes it's not. I want to try to avoid having Pillow Fort that's only good in certain situations. I know kind of in a technicality, Ghostly Prison and Sphere of Safety are also good only against wide fields. But against a Voltron-based deck, it's not bad. It makes people not have all the mana that they need. And a lot of people will say, I'll attack you later. I'll deal with you later at a later point. I'm going to attack these people while it's still free. And I'll just deal with that Pillow Fort stuff later. But that allows us to sometimes get enough time to have a real answer later on. Let me see what else we've got here. We do have the Glacial Chasm already in the deck. So really, we probably only need like 3 sources. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do 3 sources here. Solitary Confinement. This one's tough. I don't know if we have enough card draw to be able to go around all this. Yeah, I'm just going to say, that's a little bit too hard, I think. What else do we have here? We don't have a pentacolored deck. Incentivizers, those are kind of good sometimes, but most of the time they're not. I do like the Darksteel Mirror. It's pretty cheap. It can get a lot of protection dealt away from us. After that, though, Mana Gargoyle, that's a little bit too expensive for an effect like that. Because really, Darksteel Mirror, the downside here is you can use a Path or a Sword to Plowshares and get rid of it. So that's kind of one downside here. We'll skip past all the other indestructible creatures. I think for the most part, we don't really need them that badly. Having one, I think, is nice. Having more than that, I don't know if that's really that helpful. And really, the more I talk, the more I think about it, the more it's like, I probably don't even want the Darksteel Mirror at all. Yeah. This is a tough one. Yeah, this is definitely a tough one. Because we can use this to protect ourselves from one big creature every turn. Potentially. No, let's not include it. I think it's, we'll probably find some better options here. So, it's a little bit of a strange situation because we are trying to lose life, but we don't want to make it so that our opponents are the ones making us lose life. You know what I mean? Like, we want to make it, we want to be the ones in control of the life loss category. What else do we have here in this category? I do like Maze of Ith, and I do like Citadel Siege. Both of these cards are really good. With the Citadel Siege, we can tap down the big flying creature, trample creature, whatever creature we want, you know, not attacking us. We can tap that down at every combat on our opponent's turn. Kind of the same thing with Maze of Ith. Now, the downside here is they do require them to be targeted. So, I think at this point, I'd like having... Orification's kind of cool, too, though. So, let me see here. Ghostly Prison, Sphere of Safety, and Orification are all sources of... Well, even No Mercy here is pretty good. There's a lot of really good effects in terms of Pillow Fort in these colors. So, it's hard for me to just pick a few. I'll be honest. It's really tough. Do we go more Pillow Fort? I don't think so. I think we just want a little bit, and that's pretty much it. Why don't we do this? We're going to get rid of the Maze of Ith and the Citadel Siege because those two are ones that have to target creatures. So if someone has a big hexproof Voltron, that's pretty bad for us. So why don't we do this? We'll put Ghostly Prison, Sphere of Safety, Orification, and No Mercy. And I think that should be pretty good. We could also go with Divine Presence, but that makes opponents prevent damage, you know, dealt to each other too. Not that great for us. So I like these 4 cards. We'll go ahead and add those in. So Ghostly Prison, Sphere of Safety, Orification, and No Mercy. Going to go ahead and add those in. I like these cards a lot. Now, obviously, Unspoken Blood, there might be a couple of other sources of Pillow Fort that you like more. If you know a couple off the top of your head and you want to add those in, I think you could definitely add those in instead of these, but these are the ones that I thought of first. Aurification. These are the ones that I thought of first and I think are decently good in a deck like this. Aurification, we'll go ahead and add that one into the deck. Next one is Ghostly Prison. This one's a very famous card, Ghostly Prison. It's very well known for being one of those effects that can just shut off combat completely against you. Because people just don't want to be paying that extra mana. Because they want to keep, putting stuff out on the board. And so that, is usually one way that people are pretty sad. If you get rid of their stuff, they're pretty sad when they have to pay mana to attack you. All right, so let's see. Ghostly Prison, and the last one here is the Sphere of Safety. Okay, so after this, we've got room for one more card. And I do want to add in 2 board wipes here. We've got already the Merciless Eviction, which is pretty good. We've got the Tragic Arrogance. After this, I think the next ones I'd like to include are going to be everyone's favorite, or at least my favorite, Boom Pile. I think that one should be pretty good. We can do a lot of really cool stuff with that in a deck like this. So why don't we go for the Boom Pile? We'll add that one in, and then we're going to add in one more card as well. So we'll add in the Boom Pile, and then one other card here. What else can we add in? We've got a 5-drop, a 6-drop. This is a 4-drop. I guess we could technically go more expensive. And since we've dropped a few card draw options, although, like I said, we don't need to have one extra one, I don't mind adding in Decree of Pain to wipe away the board and at the same time draw a bunch of cards, refill our hand at the same time. So that should be pretty cool. So we'll go ahead and add that one in. And now we got to remove one card here. So what other card can we remove? I don't want to drop any of the ramp because we've got just enough ramp. Tutors, maybe. Maybe we drop one from here. So let me see here. Shred Memory. What do we have? One of the nice things here about Magic Online, that's pretty cool. And I don't know if this is gonna work. I'm a little bit scared here. Why don't I do this? I don't think I can do it this way. No, I was gonna search for just 2 drops and then press Apply Filters, and it'll only show the 2 drops in your deck. But I think it gets rid of all this organization. I don't want to have to go back and redo it. So let me just take a look here really quick. In terms of 2 drops, that might be pretty important. We've got 3-drop, Tainted Remedy. That seems pretty important. We've got a 5-drop, Sanguine Bond. Repaying Kind, that's 7. Here's a 6-drop. So 3, 5, 6, 7. We've got another 5-drop here, the Near-Death Experience. Exquisite Blood. This one's pretty interesting. We'll put that at the 5 drops. I was just thinking actually about something. Near-Death Experience. That's another reason why we'd like to have the Vidalcan Ori in this deck. We can play that out on the turn before, or on the end step before our turn. That way, on our turn, if we have 1 life, we can be okay. Whereas if we have to play it out there, like someone might have, they might save some way to deal damage to us at instant speed. That might be something that we'll see. But yeah, 5 drops here, 7 drops, and then the Exsanguinate. This is a 2-drop, but it's not super important for a deck like this. In a way, it kind of counts as life gain, so I'll go ahead and put that there. But it's like so-so. It's almost like a Blind Obedience effect that's a little bit more all at once. So these 2 cards are kind of all the same category in a way. The rest of these cards, I don't know if I would consider these to be like super important. Like this Drana's Emissary, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Doesn't really seem that big of a deal. Although it does allow you to gain 1 life so that you can have an even life total, so that you can pay 2 life with Selenia over and over and over, because you have to hold priority. So you activate it. In response to activating, you activate it again. In response, you activate it again over and over and over. That's the idea of how you get Selenia to make your life total 1, so that you can win with a near-death experience. But besides that, like I don't know if Drana's Emissary is actually that great here. I guess that's one benefit to the Vesper Ghoul. You can choose when to make your life total, odd or even. So that can be kind of helpful here. All right, so what else do we need here? I think everything else is pretty good. Yeah, so let me take a look here. 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 3, 4, 4. Yeah, I mean, a couple of these are pretty interesting, but not anything that I'm saying like, okay, without that card, we just can't go off. Actually, you know what? Angel's Grace kind of counts. Angel's Grace, and as a proxy here, the same idea with the Stunning Reversal and the Phyrexian Unlife. I'm sorry, well, I guess also that's Fairy's Protection too. The rest of these, though, I guess in a way, Tainted, that doesn't really, like I was thinking that if we have the Ad Nauseam, that would be pretty helpful here. All right, so what else do we want here in this deck? Currently, we are at 12 drops and 12 adds, but I don't think I'm close to finishing off this deck because there are a couple of other things I'd like to add in. And yes, we've got a lot of tutors, but I don't even know how many of these tutors are actually good enough for this deck. I think what we can do is we can probably drop a few of these and add in some more sources of cards that we just actually want in the deck. So what else do we have here? We've got Exsanguinate. I'm a little bit iffy on the Exsanguinate because we're not a big mana deck, so we're not likely to have a lot of mana. So I don't even know if these two cards are actually going to be as helpful for us here. The Cabal, I do like this one because it allows us to make opponents lose life for just casting stuff. So if we just go for example, we make our life total go down to 2, for example, and we repay in kind, that's enough with the Cabal that maybe people can't really do anything after that point because they would just lose the game for casting something. So I do like that. I do think that would be kind of cool. Lich is kind of funny, but it's a bit too risky. There's so many board wipes in the game. And we're trying to lose a bunch of life anyways. We don't want to have to sacrifice that many things, especially with Lich on our battlefield. So I know it's a little bit of a weird thing. We're kind of changing up the feel of the deck, but by just dropping a few cards here, we're just dropping 4 cards. I think we can make room for a few other cards that might work out better in this deck. So let's take a look here. We've got those 4 cards dropped. And yeah, I'm really not seeing a whole lot of cards for us to get with the Shred Memory, so I think that's okay to drop. 3 drops, we do have a lot of great stuff for 3 mana. Diabolic Tutor, this is kind of expensive for our tutor, but I'm going to keep it in here because it does seem like this deck might actually want that. For the Dimir Houseguard, what do we want to grab with that besides a Stunning Reversal, maybe a No Mercy or something? We can always grab a Boom Pile with it. Maybe that's not too bad actually. Lost Auramancers, this one's kind of a risky one. Now obviously we're not playing blue that we can grab Omniscience with something like this, but we have to wait for all those counters to go off, and then we get a free enchantment, and I don't even know what enchantment we'd like to grab. If we grab the near-death experience, we won't actually trigger this because this is happening at the upkeep. Yeah, it's happening at the upkeep. So the near-death experience won't be able to trigger that same turn. So what enchantment would we want to grab with the Lost Auramancers? You know what? I'm not really seeing what would be good here. Let's drop the Lost Auramancers as well. Because, like I said, I think it's just going to come down and someone's going to be a little bit too afraid of it and they're just going to destroy it with one of their spot removal spells. It's not going to be that great for us. After that, we've got the Increasing Ambition. Again, 5 mana, a little bit too expensive for a tutor effect. But the fact that we can use it over and over, not bad. I guess if we're playing against a mill deck, we get a free spell out of the graveyard too. Brain Spoil, this grabs 5 drops. Yeah, 5 drops are really great. We can grab the Exquisite Blood or Sanguine Bond combo with that, so that's pretty good. And then lastly, Demonic Collusion. If we can grab 2 cards with that one by discarding most of the cards in our hand, I think that's pretty cool. I'm not a huge fan of this normally, but I guess in a deck like this, it could be okay. So why don't we do that? Right now we've got room for 5 more cards. Let's see what Selenia specific cards we could include that would actually work out pretty well in this deck. So I'm going to go ahead and search that, and it's going to be kind of a weird search term that I'm going to look up here, but I'm going to look up things like, I guess we could go life total, but I don't even know if that's going to work either, because I think it's like life, there's a lot of different things that don't actually use the word total. And obviously we want to make sure that we're only grabbing things that are legal in EDH and in our deck. So let's go and add those 2 terms to our search and then press enter. We can close out these other cards because we don't need them anymore. We've already added them into the deck. And for whatever reason, Tapped Out is just really slow recently. So let's take a look at the rest of this deck. What else we got here? We've got Axis of Mortality. That's pretty interesting. Making people exchange life totals. I do kind of like that. Arbiter of Nullridge, it makes everybody's life total become the highest life total. I don't know, is this actually helpful for us? What do we want to do with Arbiter of Nullridge? Yeah, I'm not really seeing anything that would be helpful here. This is all about damage. So Angel's Grace, actually I don't even think that works with Ad Nauseam because I think you just lose life. You don't actually get dealt damage with the Angel's Grace, but it's still good. Don't get me wrong, it's still a good card. This is a pretty interesting board up if we're doing a lot of life gain, but I don't even know if we're playing a lot of life gain here. The Axis of Mortality, this one's pretty cool. You can target yourself and another opponent and then make yourself lose a bunch of life. Yeah, I like the Axis of Mortality. That works out really well with Selenia. I think that's where I want to start off with. I want to start off with cards that work really well with specifically Selenia. Arbiter of Nullrich, not that great. Same thing with the Eily. This has to take a long time, and it's not really that great here. Blazing Hope is kind of a cool spot removal spell, but not super helpful, I think. Celestial Convergence. So this one says whoever has the highest life total. I don't think that really matters here, does it? No, it doesn't really matter here. Celestial Mantle doesn't seem that helpful here. Eternity Vessel. This one's pretty interesting. We can kind of have a backup life total. So if someone has a way to deal damage to us, if we happen to have a fetch land out in the battlefield, we can use that with the Eternity Vessel and go back to our high life total. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. But I don't think that actually wins us the game with Selenia. So I'm going to go ahead and get passed over that one. Next one here. If you would lose the game, instead exile this and your life total becomes equal to your start. That's not bad. It gives you a little bit extra protection. That's kind of cool. You get a little bit of extra protection so that if something happens, someone happens to be able to kill you. Instead, you just lose the Exquisite Archangel. And your life total becomes equal to 40. So that's great. You get back up to 40. That's pretty cool. All right, so what else do we have here? None of these other cards I think are too helpful. Now, the difference between Lich's Mirror and the Exquisite Archangel is you have to sacrifice everything. You shuffle all your permanents. So that's pretty bad. That would be very bad for sure. Your life total becomes equal to your starting life total. Lands you control don't untap. That's not that great. All right, Mirror Universe. This one I do like. You can sacrifice it and exchange life totals with somebody. Same thing with the Magus of the Mirror. Those are both pretty cool. What else do we have here? Platinum Empyrean. Your life total becomes 26. Not that great. We do have Repaying Kind in here already. This one is a little bit slower. Ooh, Reverse the Sands sounds great. We can use that, make our life total low, and then make somebody else's life total. We can make their life total high, or we can take their high life total, make it ours, and make our life total theirs. So that's pretty cool. What's this Revenge do? Double your life total. Target opponent loses half their life rounded up. Not bad, but maybe not that great either. Let's see here. Because, I mean, again, with the Selenia, it doesn't really combo with that. Let's keep going down. If you control a creature, damage will reduce your life total to less than 1, reduces it to 1 instead. Not that great. Put a bunch of tokens. Yeah. Target opponent's life total becomes 10. This one's kind of like the same style effect as Selenia, but without, just cutting out the middleman. But it is a one-time effect. You really can't do it over and over like you can with the rest of these cards. Although I guess technically Magus of the Mirror and the Mirror Universe are also one-time effects. So if these are good enough, then so is the Slorin. So the question becomes, are these good enough? Well, they can only be activated during your upkeep, which means that somebody could respond during their turn with a way to blow it up, and you really can't activate it in response. So yeah, let's go ahead and get rid of these for one being pretty fragile and being only like a one-time effect. Reverse the Sands, it is also a one-time effect, but you get it on the stack, and you can, like, if someone else has a low life total, you can actually make 2 life totals get pretty low. So that's kind of cool too. I like Reverse the Sands here. And then Soul Conduit, I like this one. This one's instant speed. That is fantastic. We do already have the Stunning Reversal in the deck. Damage, again, that's a more damage-based thing. At the beginning of your upkeep, count the number of permanents you control. Your life total becomes that number. That sounds pretty bad, actually, in most situations. Tree of Perdition's kind of cool. I like that one. We can make somebody's life total become 13. And I'm surprised there was nothing here about, like, the Triskaidekaphobia. Let me take a look at that card and see what it mentions here. Maybe we can take a look at that card and make a search term based off of it. So let's go ahead and do that here. We'll go ahead and type in Tris. I can't remember how to spell it. I'm just going to type in Trisk because that should pop up here. Yeah, here we go. Triskaidekaphobia. Each player with exactly 13 life loses a game. Let's take a look for things that say exactly. I'm kind of curious what things say exactly, because we do have a deck that can make our life total exactly something. So maybe that can help us do some cool stuff here. Let's also look for things that say life, because I don't want to look at just things that don't care about life or anything. Deadly Wanderings will pop up again, but that's not something I don't mind going through. All right, so Near Death Experience, and then the Triskaidekaphobia. So not a whole lot else that we can use. Tree of Perdition, I like that one a lot because we can use that, flip it with somebody, and it does, hold on a second. So we can make somebody's life total exactly 13. But then we have a 0-40. And then if we get the Tainted Remedy out there, we can make somebody else gain life, and then they would lose that much life instead. That's kind of cool. You know, that's making me remember, though, there are a couple of other ways to make people lose life instead of gain life. Let me take a look here at my infinite combos. So I've got here a list of infinite combos. I recently updated it, infinite. I recently updated it with a few extra combos that I didn't actually notice, and I'm excited to have added those. There's a lot of cards that I just didn't realize, holy moly, Peer into the Abyss is just combos with tons of things. And based off of that, I actually found another combo with one of my favorite cards, Compost. So if you've got Compost and you've got an effect like Sphinx's Tutelage, what will happen is if you have an opponent that's playing black and something goes into their graveyard, you're going to draw a card from the Compost, which will then trigger the card Sphinx's Tutelage. Now, if you happen to mill another black card with that effect, you get to trigger the Compost again. So the idea here is you could potentially draw a ton of cards and make your opponents lose a lot of cards from their library and put into their graveyard. Especially if they happen to mill 2 black cards, you'll draw 2 cards and you'll have the effect repeat from the Sphinx's Tutelage. So that's a lot of really cool stuff here. If you haven't seen my infinite list here, this is the way that it works. Scroll down all the way down here. I've added a new category, other immediate losses for opponents. You'll see a couple of things, not a ton, but just a few. But I'm going to go right now down to the infinite non-combat damage / life loss. And the reason I want to look into that, I don't think I want to include the Peer into the Abyss combos, although there are a lot of them. But I definitely want to look at some other ones. Wound Reflection, this one's definitely one that I'd like to add in. The question is here, Blood Tribute, we make somebody lose half their life total. The Wound Reflection will make them lose the other half. Not amazing. I do like the Wound Reflection because it works with all of our other effects, so I'm definitely going to be adding that into the deck. But what else can I add from this category that kind of does double duty? Each player loses half their life, then discards half the cards in their hand, then sacrifices half the creatures they control. I mean, it's not really a board wipe. And it makes it for each player. So I prefer not to do it for that. I probably like to do it for each opponent. This has no way to get around blockers. Havoc Festival is red. Malignus is red. That's a black card. Revival or Revenge. We did see this one earlier. What's the other effect? Return target creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. I don't think we're going to have a lot of 3-drop creatures in this deck. Quietus Spike. We can make people lose half their life total, and we get a Death Touch thing as well. Kind of the same thing with the Raving Dead, Scythe Claw, and then Virtus the Veiled. You know, I like Wound Reflection. Don't get me wrong. I think that one's good, but I think the rest of these are not amazing. We've got Exquisite Blood in the deck as well. And we're not really doing a lot of life gain, so I don't know how many of these other effects are going to be that helpful for us. Yeah, like a lot of these other cards are cool, but they're pretty vulnerable. Like, they're all creatures for the most part. Yeah, it looks like so far they're all creatures, except for the Sanguine, which we already have. Viscopa and then Vito. Yeah, I think those are not going to be that great here. Guilty Conscience. Now, Aetherflux Reservoir, I definitely want to include that one, because we do have the Exquisite Blood in the deck. Yeah, let's go ahead and add that one into the deck for sure. Especially we've already got the, we've also got, what's that card called? The, we've got, man, the Bolas' Citadel. We've got that in the deck as well, so that one's pretty cool. Now we've got here False Cure as another effect, but that's a one-time effect. Not that great here, I think. Yeah, I think we can probably skip out on that one. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, I do want to add in these 2 cards. I think both of those will be pretty cool. So I think this is going to be okay. We can add in these cards. This should make the Selenia deck do its thing more often. And yeah, I kind of like this one. Now, let me just double check. Are any of these 2-drops that I want to add in? Or that I want to add in one of those tutors back in? Not really. I do see some 4-drops. I already kept the 4-drop one in there. So 4-drop, 6-drop. That one's a 7-drop. That's, I think, an 8-drop. 6, 4, 6, and 4. Yeah, so we've got already the 4-drop in there, and I don't think there's a transmute for 6. I think there's only that one for blue, right? Or I think there might be one for 6 as well. Let me take a look here on one of these tabs. Is there a transmute for 6? So let's just take a look, see if I can find it. Because it might be, though, I think there's one for blue and one for black, but I can't remember. So we're going to look for things that say transmute, and then the CMC is exactly 6. Let me see if I can find that here. Oh, it is. Yeah, so we've got Netherborn Phalanx, which is kind of cool. It's also a creature that can make each opponent lose 1 life for each creature they control. So if somebody happens to have a bunch of creatures out there and their life total is pretty low, we can actually kill them with a Netherborn Phalanx as an additional benefit. Yeah, not bad. Not bad at all. Yeah, let's go ahead and add that one into there. So we're going to go and go Tree of Perdition, Axis of Mortality, Exquisite Archangel. Sometimes when I'm just doing so much talking, I just can't pronounce things anymore. So let's go ahead and do that. Exquisite Archangel. And really, we've got Exquisite Blood and the Exquisite Archangel in this deck. That makes this whole deck exquisite. That's the way I see it. All right, so let's go ahead and add that one in. We're going to go ahead and add that to our add pile. Don't want to actually accidentally mix things up here. Exquisite Archangel. We've got Tree of Perdition. Tree of Perdition, adding that into the deck as well. You know, I'm looking at all these effects, and we're adding a lot of really expensive cards. I think we're going to need to upgrade the ramp here. And I can keep, like, some of the slower effects. Like, I'll keep the 2-drop ones in, because obviously people like that a lot. But I think we can drop the 3-drop ones, except for the Burner Shard, which I think it's great. Why don't we do that here? And then the last one was the Axis of Mortality. Axis of Mortality. This is one card that when I saw it, I was like, oh, such a cool card. I would love to play this card in the deck. And I think Selenia would be the perfect deck to play it in. Which we also have the Soul Conduit, which comes from the new Phyrexia set, which was the first set that I actually got to see the release of. Now, this was kind of a dark time in Magic's history where the entire set was leaked. Literally every single card was leaked before anybody had the chance to preview cards. And so it was definitely kind of a sad note during that time. But I was new to, you know, Magic in general, and I didn't really know what was going on. So it wasn't that bad for me. But yeah, Soul Conduit, when I saw that card, I was like, oh, that sounds so cool. I love it. But we're going to go ahead and add in Reverse the Sands, Triskei Decaphobia, and Netherborn Phalanx. Let's go ahead and add those in. Netherborn Phalanx. And then what was the other two? Triskei Decaphobia and the Wound Reflection. Maybe it was something else, but that's what I remember. Netherborn Phalanx. We'll go ahead and add in the Wound Reflection. And I can also add in the Aetherflux Reservoir because I remember that one pretty well too. Let's go ahead and get the Wound Reflection, add that one in. I think this one's good because it makes opponents lose additional life. So that is always a benefit for us here. Wound Reflection, I said Aetherflux Reservoir, and then Reverse the Sands is the next one, which is kind of like a white copy of Repaying Kind, which kind of tells you that white and black are both like all in on this kind of style deck. Reverse the Sands. We'll go ahead and get that one into the deck. Yeah, you know what? I think I'd be tempted to try to do a lot of high life total stuff too in a deck like this. The ones that I'm thinking of are like, what's an example? You've got stuff like Felidar Sovereign, and you got Alhammar's Archive where you can double up your life gain. I would be so tempted to do stuff like that in a deck like this, but I think it's probably better like this. You're just trying to get to a low life total and keep it there and do stuff with it that way. All right, so Netherborn Phalanx, Wound Reflection, Aetherflux Reservoir, Reverse the Sands. Missing a couple of cards here. What's the last card here? Triskei Decaphobia. All right, so that's not too hard to remember. Triskei Decaphobia. And then we'll have to take a look to see how many cards we have to drop to add these cards in. And I do think that all of these cards are going to be important. Triskei Decaphobia. I think that's how you spell it. And you know what? I think I put an E here when it's supposed to be an I. Triskei Decaphobia. Let me see if that pulls it up. Cabal Consul of the... yeah, this one's a great card. No, it's just too good. It's just too good. I love it. What else? I mean, Hex Parasite, it can kill Planeswalkers. This is tough, man. This is really tough. But we've got Selenia. It can already do that. I don't like foresee our opponents trying to get rid of it that much. Let's drop the Hex Parasite, but I want to do that because I want to add a way to... Well, we do have a couple of ways to gain 1 life or lose exactly 1 life. Maybe we're okay on that end. Let's go ahead and add this one in. So we need to add... we need to drop 3 more cards. Oh, man. I hate doing this, but why don't we just drop the 3 most expensive tutors? Like, that seems like a good spot to start. Like, tutoring for a win is not something you want to see opponents do all that often. So, yeah, let's just drop these 3. The other ones, they're, like, cheap enough that I'm okay having them in. But then again, can we improve our tutors? We could go, like, Demonic Tutor, Enlightened Tutor, and Vampiric Tutor. Those certainly would be 3 tutors that would be better than these. And you know what? I know it sounds kind of strange, but let's go for it. Let's go for it. The transmute's fine. It's not horrible, but the difference between 3 mana at sorcery speed and like 1 or 2 mana, potentially at instant speed as well, that's a huge, huge difference. And I think a deck like that might actually see a huge improvement as a result. So Vampiric Tutor, why don't we add that one in? And I know this is definitely outside of what I like to do for most of my my deck doctors, but I think part of the reason that I like to do that here is because this is a very unique deck. There's not every deck you'll see trying to lose life. Most decks are trying to stay with a high life total. They're not trying to lose life. But I think in a situation like this, it's actually important for us to do that here. The Aetherflux Reservoir, it does gain us life. We technically don't need to have it, right? No, we do have the combo. If we can get up to 50 life with the Aetherflux Reservoir combined with the Exquisite Blood, we can actually just kill all 3 opponents. We don't need to get up to 151. We can just get up to 51 instead. And 100 life, that's a huge difference. So Vampiric Tutor, Demonic Tutor. And again, these are obvious. I mean, everybody knows about these. But I think it's going to be important to get these so that the deck will kind of will run more smoothly. And I think that's important for sure. And the last one here, Enlightened Tutor. What about Grim Seal or Grim Tutor or Imperial Seal? Both of those cards are definitely tutors that people like. I don't like them as much as these 3 cards. Like these 3 tutors, I like more than those 3. So or those 2 rather. So that's kind of the reason why I'm not including those other ones. I think the recursion is important, so we do have a couple of sources of that, but I don't think it's important enough that we need to go up beyond 2. So if Unspoken Blood wants to have the recursion, that's fine. If Unspoken Blood said, you know, I don't really even like these cards that much in this deck, that's fine to drop 2, but for this deck, I'm just going to keep them in, because I think they're kind of nice. Not necessary, but nice to have for sure. So we've got 24 changes. I kind of like that, to be honest. I think that's going to be pretty good. Anything else we want to add in? I don't think so. I mean, we've got... life loss. We could kind of trim up some of these sources of ramp. Let me see exactly how many options we have for trimming. We could drop 2 and add in 2. That sounds pretty reasonable, I think, right? We're just changing out 2 of these sources. And the 2 I'd like to add in would be ways that we can get a lot of mana. The first one is going to be the Thran Dynamo. Although we do have a lot of... Well, we don't have that much colored stuff. Like, we can probably use the Thran Dynamo colorless mana pretty easily. I don't think it's worth it to go up to the Gilded Lotus. I'm just going to add in the Thran Dynamo, and I'm going to go ahead and add in the Smothering Tithe as well. Technically, we could drop like a 3rd ramp source, and then use that 3rd ramp source to add in the Gilded Lotus as well. But I like having 26 drops here for the 26 adds, and I think that's pretty much it. So here we've got our finalized deck list. Once we drop these 26 cards, we will add in these 26, and then we will play this deck. So let me just wrap this up. For those of you that are keeping count at home, we've got Orzhov Charm, Devouring Shadow, Oblation, Utter End, Forsake the Worldly, Disenchant, Oblivion Ring, Banished Light, Sign in Blood, Succumb to Temptation, Read the Bones, Drana's Emissary, Blind Obedience, Exsanguinate, Lich, Shred Memory, Lost Oromancers, Hex Parasite, Demonic Collusion, Brain Spoil, Increasing Ambition, Dimir Houseguard, Diabolic Tutor, Dimir Machinations, Darksteel Ingot, and Vessel of Endless Rest dropped in order to add in Weathered Wayfarer, Ash Barrens, Fetid Heath, Fabled Passage, Anguished Unmaking, not Unspoken Blood, that's the person we're doing for, D-Spark, No Mercy, Orification, Ghostly Prison, Sphere of Safety, Boompile, Decree of Pain, right, is that Decree of Pain? I believe it's Decree of Pain. Yeah, Decree of Pain, Exquisite Archangel, Tree of Perdition, Axis of Mortality, Soul Conduit, Netherborn Phalanx. Actually, we added this one in as another tutor, but maybe we don't need to actually have that one. Do we? I mean, it kind of pulls double duty. It's a tutor and a way for us to win, whereas like the Dimir Houseguard, I mean, it's not really important to cast it ever, and the Dimir Machinations, like, that's also not that great, where it's like card disadvantage. Yeah, this one actually pulls double duty, so that's kind of benefit here. Anyways, Netherborn Phalanx, Wound Reflection, Aetherflux Reservoir, Reverse the Sands, Triskai Decaphobia, Vampiric Tutor, Demonic Tutor, Enlightened Tutor, Thran Dynamo, and Smothering Tithe. And that is the full deck doctor, so let's go ahead and jump into the gameplay. And here we are in the game. So taking a look at this first opening hand, we've only got 2 lands in it. Nothing in here that we can actually cast for 2 mana besides our Angel's Grace. So I think this is a pretty easy free mulligan here just to go down to 7. And this next hand looks a lot better. We don't have much that we can cast here except for our Vesper Ghoul. Well, actually, no, we can actually cast the Vidalcan Ori as well. So yeah, I do like this one a lot more. We're going to definitely keep this one. We've got the Ancient Tomb. We can kind of surprise out something if we'd like to. I don't know if it really matters for us to get down that Vesper Ghoul on turn 2. That could be something we want to do here. But the downside is, well, actually, no, that wouldn't be a downside. Yeah, I think we could do that. We could go Command Tower on turn 1, turn 2, Ancient Tomb into Vesper Ghoul, and then turn 3, technically we could even get down to Sphere of Safety on turn 3, which is probably not that's not a bad idea. Like, I'm looking at my opponent's decks here, and their Rabo might be a bit of a problem. But before we jump into our opponents and their commanders, and let's say anticipating what they're doing, let's talk about our commander. Let's talk about this deck. For those of you that skipped past the Deck Doctor, because, you know, that's fine. Some people don't like watching Deck Doctor videos. Some people just like watching the gameplay. So let's just go ahead and talk about this deck and the commander. So our commander here is Selenia Dark Angel. 5 mana for a legendary 3/3 angel with flying that says we can pay 2 life to return Selenia Dark Angel to its owner's hand. Now, the way this gets a little weird is just like any free sacrifice outlet, we're trying to abuse the fact that our commander is a free life outlet. Now, we'd have to use it in a specific way. We have to respond to its own ability by activating it again in order to pay any amount of even life we would like. But that is actually pretty good. We can actually use that, bring our life total down to 1, and then win with Near-Death Experience or a card like it. Near-Death Experience is a 5-drop enchantment that says, at the beginning of your upkeep, if your life total is exactly 1, you win the game. So that's kind of one of the benefits there. So yeah, we got down our command tower here for turn 1. We're going to go ahead and yield until our next upkeep. All right, and now we've talked about our commander, kind of talked a little bit about our deck. Obviously, this Vesper Ghoul seems a little strange, but the fact that we can use that to ramp while allowing us to decide whether or not we have an even life total or an odd life total really can change the game for us. So that's one of the reasons why we're playing that one in here. Again, next turn, we're going to be playing down the Ancient Tomb, losing 2 life to play down the Vesper Ghoul, so that's going to bring us down to 38. The turn after that, if we actually use the Vesper Ghoul and the Ancient Tomb again, that's going to bring us down to 35 just to get out either the Exquisite Blood or the Sphere of Safety out on turn 3. Now, Exquisite Blood could be cool if we're seeing opponents lose a lot of life, but with the fact that we don't really have any ways to protect ourselves at the moment, this is not going to be as good yet. So what we probably want to do is go first for the Sphere of Safety, and then later on we can go for the Exquisite Blood. I might even go for the Vidalcan Ori over Exquisite Blood just in the short term, because this is not as important to our deck as this might be, because this one allows us to go infinite with either Sanguine Bond or with Aetherflux Reservoir, where if an opponent's losing life from the damage we're dealing with the Aetherflux Reservoir, we can gain that much life back and do it again. So that's kind of the idea here. So even if somebody has, you know, 1,000,000 life, Exquisite Blood with the Aetherflux Reservoir, if we've got at least 51, we can kill him. So that's one of the cool things there. All right, so next turn, again, playing down the Ancient Tomb into the Vesper Ghoul. Now that we've really talked about what we're doing, we can go to talk about our opponents and what they're doing. Our first opponent here is Tregnot. Maybe it's a French word, but I don't know enough French. I don't know how to pronounce that according to French rules. Oh my goodness, this deck is getting out crazy amounts of mana. We're going to hope that the Arabo deck, which is most likely going to be a low-to-the-ground cat aggro deck, will take care of Cindered here, because that is a lot of mana. Let's see, that's who has islands? Well, okay, nobody has islands yet, but you know, maybe Tregnot will get one out on their turn. So let's say they have 1 there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, potentially 7 mana next turn on turn 3. That is rough for sure. All right, so we're going to go ahead and, Tainted Sigil. We don't have the white and black mana for that just yet. We only have 1 source of black or white mana. So we're going to go ahead, pay the 2 life in order to play out the Vesper Ghoul, and then pass to our opponents. All right, so Tregnot here playing Krufix, God of Horizons. 5 mana for a legendary enchantment 4/7 god with Indestructible that says as long as your devotion to green and blue is less than 7, Krufix isn't a creature. Now the benefit here is you have no maximum hand size, and if you lose unspent mana, that mana becomes colorless instead. So with Krufix, what you can do is you can kind of save up your mana. You can kind of store your mana over multiple turns. Cindered says, that is sort of amazing. I don't know who they're talking about. They might be talking about us. But we've got Vesper Ghoul. Kind of a cool little art, though. I will say the art is really interesting. Who, me? I'll put that here. Who, me? I'll put a little LOL there too. Yeah, so we've got, all right, Training Grounds coming down for the Crewfix deck. So that's going to allow them to mill everybody. We mill our Angel's Grace, unfortunately. That's a great card to have in this deck, but the fact that our opponents milled a Bring to Light, I am A-okay with that. That is actually A-okay with me. We also milled a Temple of Silence. So let's see, we got the Leonin War Leader in the graveyard too, Kaya's Guile. Not bad, not bad. Yeah, Black Mana Dork. Not something you see every day. Vesper Ghoul, you do not see Black Mana Dorks at all. But we got one, and we're going to be using it. So what am I anticipating from this Crewfix deck? I'm anticipating a lot of mana being produced and then kind of stored into Crewfix so that maybe saving up 5 mana one turn, 5 mana on the next turn, you can start casting 10 drops with counterspell backup. So you can kind of have that mana available even after casting this huge 10-drop creature on like turn 6 or something. So that's what I'm anticipating from Crewfix. We'll see if it gets to that point, but yeah, Crewfix can definitely be a pretty scary deck. That no maximum hand size also means that they could be doing something similar to just drawing a ton of cards, maybe cards based on the size of your creatures, maybe a big creatures and drawing deck. We'll see. But I feel like it's going to be the last ability here, the most important here, allowing them to save that mana, use it if it's not spent on something big, combining it with future turns. Our second opponent here is Zadek. I want to say it's just Zadek. But our second opponent here is playing the Arabo, and it looks like it's having a little bit hard time getting that up there. Arabo, Roar of the World. 5 mana for a legendary 5/5 cat avatar with an Eminence ability, which means at the beginning of combat on your turn, if Arabo, Roar of the World is in the command zone or on the battlefield, another target cat you control gets +3/+3 until end of turn. It's also got this ability, whenever another cat you control attacks, you may pay 1 green and white. If you do, it gains trample and it gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is its power. So for 3 mana, being able to give trample and double the power of creatures, not to mention you're already giving +3/+3 to cats, that can be pretty broken. Yeah, just imagine if you target a 1/1, right, with both of those abilities, you're paying 3 mana to turn it into an 8/8 trampler. So things that are small can definitely become, big scary things. Looks like Cinderid is going to go ahead and start off with their commander here. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I think Arabo is going to be a low-to-the-ground cat deck, basically just cat tribal. And because Arabo specifically wants those cats to be attacking, it's going to be an attack-based deck. That's just how usually it works with Arabo. So I'm not as afraid of Arabo as I am of Crewfix. I think Crewfix is a little bit scarier here than Arabo. Our third and final opponent is Cindered playing... Is it Cindered? It might be Cindered. Playing Niv Mizzet Reborn. 5 mana for a legendary 6/6 dragon avatar with flying that says, when Niv Mizzet Reborn enters the battlefield, reveal the top 10 cards of your library for each color pair. Choose a card that's exactly those colors from among them. Put the chosen cards into your hand and the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order. So here's what they revealed when that came into play. They revealed these 10 cards. So they revealed a Karanos, God of Storms, Abrupt Decay, Mirari's Wake, Hull Breach, Fractured Identity, Night of Autumn, and Kaya Ghost Assassin, I think is what that last word is. So yeah, a lot of cards here. We're going to definitely take a look to see what they've likely got in hand. We're going to see, maybe it says it here in the chat, they're going to discard a few cards as well. So they did put, it tells us exactly what they put into their hand. All right, so we're going to go ahead and draw a card. And, there's not that much out here that we really are afraid of. We can play down the Swamp. That allows us to have that double. Actually, we can get triple black by next turn. But yeah, let's go ahead and play down the Swamp. And I think right now might be the time for Sphere of Safety. If we play out the Exquisite Blood, then for sure they're going to be attacking us with that 6/6. So we cannot do that. So yeah, I think we're going to go for the Sphere of Safety here. Yeah, we are making ourselves lose a lot of life. Actually, hold on a second. We got Vesper Ghoul. We could get out the Tainted Sigil. No, I think this is better this way. We're just going to go ahead and tap it for mana, tap the Ancient Tomb, and then the Swamp. Yeah, let's get down that Sphere of Safety. Make it, one, hard for the cat tribal deck to attack us, but also, make it so that this Niv Mizzet Reborn has to use some of their mana if they want to attack us with that 6/6 in the air. So let's see if they actually do that. If they do, it's just 6 mana, or 6 damage. I'm not super afraid of that, to be honest. Yeah, we could have gotten down our Selenia Dark Angel, but again, it doesn't matter that much because 3/3 doesn't seem to be doing much on this board, and we're not ready to be using it as a life outlet anyways. Attacking with it, I don't think is going to be important here yet either, so yeah, I think this is definitely the right move to go for that Sphere of Safety. So yeah, our last opponent here being the Cinder Red. They got Kuranos, God of Storms, Mirari's Wake, Kaya, Ghost Assassin, Fractured Identity, Abrupt Decay, and Hull Breach into their hand. So we can go ahead and get rid of some of those. We got Kuranos. Abrupt Decay we do have, right? Yeah, Abrupt Decay. Mirari's Wake we have. Chromatic Lantern, no. Hull Breach, yes. Fractured Identity, yes. Savannah, that's a no. And then Night of Autumn, nope, they didn't, because they got the Mirari's Wake. And then lastly, Kaya, they did get the Kaya, and then the Urborg we can go ahead and cross off. All right, so we kind of have an idea of what they've got in the hand. We can kind of use this revealed zone to keep track of that. Yeah, 6 of those cards. We will take a look at their graveyard to see what they discarded here. Yeah, they discarded the Abrupt Decay. They discarded Abrupt Decay, the Kuranos, and Fracturing Gust. So the rest of these cards they've got in the hand. I have a feeling they're going to go for that Mirari's Wake, but they don't have any draw yet. So I'm not sure exactly what they're planning on going for here. I'm hoping that you don't use that Fractured Identity on our Sphere of Safety, but you know, they don't really have a better option at this point, so I could see them doing that here. Depends on how many lands they have in the hand. But I guess if they had many lands, they probably would have discarded them. Looks like they milled a Smothering Tithe and a Windswept Teeth. We milled 2 lands, which, I mean, I'm kind of okay with. We got a little bit of mana here. We've got, let's see, next turn to have 6 mana total. So we could go for that Soul Conduit. But that, you know, playing down an artifact so early on, a lot of people can just get rid of it before it can do a lot of damage. So we'll have to keep that in mind. Especially that right now, like the highest life total here is just 40. It's not that much of a difference from ours. Even though, yes, we will be losing 3 more life. We'll be going down to 32. Soul Conduit, you know, paying 6 mana just to gain that small amount of life doesn't seem worth it yet. So I think at this point we might be going for the Exquisite Blood, kind of turning that Sphere of Safety into a Ghost of Propaganda. And if opponents attack each other, we can also gain that life too. So that's kind of cool. But we'll see if that actually matters. Again, Exquisite Blood, because it's kind of notorious for comboing out, it might push people to attack us instead, especially if we would be gaining life off of them attacking each other. That seems like another big problemo. So we'll see if this even matters here. I think we're going to get down to the Tainted Field, and I don't know if it's the right time to get out the commander, although I guess it doesn't matter since we can always just pay 2 life, return it to the hand if something happens like a board wipe or something along those lines. Maybe we go for that, but I don't know. It just seems like a hard decision at this point. Next turn, if we don't use the Ancient Tomb, we would not be able to play out Selenia. So if we do use the Ancient Tomb but not the Vesper Ghoul, we'd be losing 2 life to play out Selenia. I think that sounds fine. Again, we could be playing out the Exquisite Blood, but I'm a little afraid of that, to be honest. Especially with that card that we saw here earlier. What was it? The Fractured Identity? Yeah, I don't want to see them using that on something crazy. But I guess no matter what they do, they're going to be using that on something crazy anyways. So maybe, yeah, Fractured Identity, I think it'd be very useful to get rid of a combo piece in that situation. So I don't blame them if they decide to go for it that way. Now, this Niv-Mizzet is now a 7/7, which means that this is a significantly larger creature. Now it's not 4 turns, it's a 3-turn clock on commander damage. They're going to start off with their attacks, attacking over at the Crewfix, which I think from their point of view definitely makes the most sense. Right now, Arabo and Selenia, they're not really that big of a threat compared to Crewfix, who can potentially get down big Eldrazi very, very early once the Crewfix comes down. Alright, so let's go ahead and draw a card for our turn. Let's see what we draw into. Again, I think if we don't draw into a better land, we'll just play it on the Tainted Field, which itself is a pretty great land in this position. Let's see what we find. Looks like Magic Online is having a little bit of trouble responding. It's not, my clock's not even moving. Nobody's clock is moving. Alright, we draw into Erebos. You know what? That actually sounds okay. I kind of like using that because we could use some extra card draw. Why not? Why not? That's what I always say. Let's go ahead and do this. We're going to tap some mana. We're going to leave the Command Tower and the Vesper Ghoul untapped. That way we can always activate the Erebos. But I think stopping life gain from our opponents, not a bad idea. We're going to go down to 33 to cast it. So eventually when we've got that Soul Conduit, we can use that to switch life totals with Cindered or Cinder Red. I think one of the downsides here with the Soul Conduit is if we would be making an opponent gain life, the Erebos actually stops the exchange. But I think it's still worth it to have it here. We're not going to be wanting to make somebody gain life with the Soul Conduit ability. So it is a little bit different compared to what we had other than this. But I think this is fine. We've got the Erebos ability held up. And now our Sphere of Safety is up to 2 mana per creature attacking. That's not a bad place to be at all. Again, if we do see that Exquisite Blood, I'm going to feel a little bit bad here. And you know what? There's also another bad thing. What happens if they use that Fractured Identity on the Erebos? I mean, that could be a big, big problem. Because now our Soul Conduit and many other cards are just turned off. Exquisite Blood would be turned off. Tainted Sigil would be turned off. Soul Conduit would be turned off. Yeah, it'd be pretty bad for us. Because nobody would be able to gain life if there's multiple ones of those out in the battlefield. All right, they're going to go ahead and mill our Smothering Tithe and our Reliquary Tower. Wow, that's 2 Smothering Tithes milled here with the Altar of the Brood. That's pretty rare. Normally, that just helps people get whatever they want because it puts more cards in their graveyard where they can access it if they've got Recursion. And technically, we do have Recursion in this deck, so maybe we draw into it in order to be able to get the Smothering Tithe out of the graveyard. All right, so they're going to go ahead and play out the Fauna Shaman. That's not bad. Fauna Shaman is going to put our Despark into our graveyard. Casualties of War into this person's graveyard. Yeah, so for this Niv Mizzet deck, I didn't really explain this earlier, but the thing I'm anticipating from them is just going to be a lot of exactly bicolored cards. So things that are exactly two-colored. I have a feeling this is going to be a lot of those types of decks. Now, obviously, or a lot of those types of cards. Obviously, there are certain cards here that are good and they're not two colors exactly, like Carpet of Flowers, Arcane Signet, Soul Ring. But when your commander does a lot of card draw, you definitely want to have a lot of ramp to kind of balance out and to complement that. Looks like Zadok here is going to go for Kadama's Reach. They do currently have a 1/1 that can pump up. They can pump it up to a 4/4. But if they decide to attack us, that would be them having to pay 2 mana. So let's see if they decide to use that 2 mana to attack us. Again, we're not going to be blocking with our Vesper Ghoul, that's for sure. And it looks like they don't have the mana anymore to be able to attack us with the 4/4. So are they going to be attacking over at Tregnot or at Cinderred? I think from my point of view, it makes more sense for them to attack Cinderred. Right now, they've got a full grip of just haymakers. So I'm not excited to see this gas come out. Rabo, Roar of the World, yeah, they're going to go and target their 4/4, or their 1/1, turn it into a 4/4. It's now a 4/4 lifelink. Let's see where it goes. Can't attack us, so let's see if it decides to go over at Cinderred. And if that's the case, oh, it looks like they decide not to attack with it at all. Yeah, because I was going to say, if that's the case, they could just block here with the 2/2. It won't trade, but it will certainly just chump block, which sometimes could be better. I don't know. I feel like I probably wanted to attack there for the lifelink while I had the chance. Otherwise, I mean, there's not much else I can block here on the battlefield anyways. Not exactly sure why they decided to keep back that Sacred Cat, but that makes sense to me here if you think that, okay, well, next turn, instead, I can get rid of the Coiling Oracle and attack and not have a blocker. So I can actually deal 4 damage to Cinderred. Not a bad idea. Let's go ahead and take a look here what else we can find. Carpet of Flowers is going to target somebody with islands. It looks like Tregnot now has 1 island, so that is going to be 1 mana that they can produce. Here at the end step of Cinderred's turn, we're going to be activating Erebos. We will be paying 2 life to draw a card, but you know what? It's life. It's a life lost deck. We're trying to make our own life total go down anyway, so I don't really mind. All right, Aurelia the War Leader. I'm sorry, we'll be paying 3 life. I forgot about the Vesper Ghoul. Aurelia the War Leader. This could be pretty bad. So now they've got 2 attacks with their 7/7. They could straight up take out Tregnot right here. 7 during the first combat, 7 during the second combat, and game over. At least for one player. So that could definitely be a problem for us here. What can we do about it? I don't think there's anything we can do, to be honest. Unless we draw into a board wipe or something along those lines. And it's going to have to be a really good board wipe, too. It's going to have to be something pretty solid because getting rid of just this one creature, I mean, they can just recast it, and that's not great for us either. So it looks like the Aurelia is going to be going towards them. The Coiling Oracle over there, and then also the Niv Mizzet over there. Interesting choice, because they could definitely just take them out with only Niv Mizzet attacks. So I'm surprised they're, in essence, wasting the Aurelia damage here. Instead of even attacking us could have been worthwhile. But, you know, I will not look a gift horse in the mouth, and I will definitely accept this gracious offer of having more opponents that can help me take them down. That's kind of the idea here. So next turn, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. We can definitely get down to Soul Conduit, but that doesn't really help us, to be honest. I think what would be better is the Exquisite Blood. We can be the ones to gain life. Our opponents can't. We can gain life ourselves. So, you know, gaining some life here could be okay. I'm glad, though, you know, I just realized they don't actually have enough mana to attack us even if they wanted to, thanks to our Sphere of Safety. Oh, no, actually, they could attack us with one creature if they wanted to. But it looks like they're not doing that here. They're going to attack with the Aurelia. And then the 7/7 over at Tregnot, which will kill Tregnot here. Tregnot says GG. We will go ahead and say GG as well. And Cinderette saying the GG's in the chat also. Okay, so here on our next turn, we are kind of up against a... we're in a corner here. We've been cornered. This is pretty bad. We can see they've got a 2-turn, potentially 1-turn clock on board. So we need to deal with hopefully both of these creatures. Tainted Sigil doesn't do it. Vidalcan Orrery doesn't do it. Soul Conduit, Exquisite Blood, they don't do it. I think we're just going to have to play out our Selenia at the very least. Uh-oh. Here we go. Alright, somebody's using the Source to Plowshares. They're going to respond with a mana drain. Okay, so that's fine. That means they're going to get just 1 mana, but that, more importantly, that protects them from their creature dying here. They wouldn't be gaining the life because of our Erebos anyways, but looks like they will be taking 4, going down to 33, which is conveniently our life total. And it looks like here Tregnot is out of the game. Okay, well that was a very quick death indeed. Like I said here at the end step, I'm going to be using the Erebos, trying to draw into something. Oh, cool! At the second main phase. Okay, so they're going to get this right now. I did not realize that's how it worked. And they have two mana in addition to this one, so they can play out a 3-drop here. I forgot about the Mirari's Wake. They could have definitely attacked us twice with the Niv Mizzet. Next turn, if they want to attack us 3 times, they'd be paying, what, 9 mana if we get done the Exquisite Blood? Let me think about this here. If we get done the Selenia, that gives us a blocker, and I forgot to draw with Erebos. Hopefully that doesn't affect our game too much here. Blood Gift Demon. Well, in a way, this kind of allows us to protect against the Aurelia, but they're probably going to be attacking with the Niv Mizzet Reborn anyways. So why don't we just do this? We're going to go ahead and play out our Selenia, cast it, and we can't actually use the Vesper Ghoul mana, so we're going to go ahead and use the rest of this here. And then black from this one, and then 2 mana there from the Ancient Tomb, going down to 31, and leaving up the Vesper Ghoul as well on the ground. Alright, so now it's kind of a weird position that we're in. If anything happens to our Selenia, if it would die, if it would get exiled, we might as well just pay the 2. I mean, paying 2 is definitely better than paying 2 mana. Paying 2 life, rather. So, we're going to go ahead and not attack with our 1/1 because, first of all, they could trade here with the Sacred Cat, and then obviously they could eat it. So, not exactly what I'd like to do here. But we've got a blocker, which is certainly pretty good. We can use that to block this big 7/7 flyer that's coming our way. And then just return it to our hand so that we can kind of use it again if we'd like to. It is a little strange because they get 2 combats each turn. So the Selenia, you know, with the life loss, it kind of, in a strange way, is almost like a source that makes this turn into a 3-turn clock. And that means that they have to pay, let's see, 1, 2 per their Niv Mizzet attacking. So 4 mana each turn, they can kill us in 3 turns. With the Selenia out. That makes me feel a little bit better. Obviously, it's not ideal, but it's certainly better than what else we could have as other options. Alright, so Sword of Fire and Ice is going to come down. Equip, I'm assuming, equip to the Sacred Cat. They could use that to get rid of the Coiling Oracle, although I guess they could also use it to get rid of the Vesper Ghoul. So they're going to give it Pro Blue, Pro Red, which gets around both of these creatures. They can attack here for 6 damage over at Cinderette, allowing them to try to gain 6 life. But then the Erebos will turn that off. Kind of weird here. The Erebos is actually preventing opponents from gaining life, which means we're preventing ourselves from having a higher life total with the Soul Conduit. Maybe it was a bad decision on my part to include the Soul Conduit, but I think this was the right play here. It works so well with our commander. It might just be the better move to take out the Erebos instead because of the non-bow here. Alright, they're going to go ahead and get down the Kahira and the Bronzehide Lion. Okay, so this is pretty interesting. They've turned this into a 4/4. This is going to turn into a 7/7. Again, can't be blocked here by either one of those creatures. If they decide to attack us, it doesn't really matter too much. I think I would just block with the Vesper Ghoul because if they really want to take care of us, if we're really the threat, they're going to get rid of our Vesper Ghoul anyways. So might as well just throw it in front and protect ourselves. Looks like, no, they're going to go attack with the 7/7 over at Cinderette, which I think is the right move here, to be honest. And I think everybody would probably agree here. Right now, this opponent having their commander out as a 7/7 thanks to the Mirari's Wake and having out the Aurelia, which allows them to double the combats, that is a very bad combination for us. So we'll see what we can do. Sword of Fire and Ice here, going to trigger. I'm assuming they're going to get rid of the Coiling Oracle, but they could always just shoot it up to their face. That's always an option too. Yeah, they're going to go ahead and shoot it up to their face. Oh, no, sorry. They are using it to get rid of the Coiling Oracle. Okay, so they're going to get rid of the Coiling Oracle here with the Sword of Fire and Ice. They got to draw a card. They're up to 3 cards in hand. And they've got a nice board state. I mean, it's not amazingly, like, powerful, but they could definitely deal some pretty big damage with it, especially with that sword out there. Yeah, I could definitely see this being a pretty bad situation for Cinderred. But that does make me wonder, does Cinderred see us as the big threat, or do they see Zadok as the big threat? That's my next question. So let's see what they end up finding. And you know what? I think, now that I'm thinking about it, if we get down the Vidalcan Orrery on our next turn, you know, granted that we don't have to replay out our Selenia, blocking it in front of the Niv Mizzet, I wouldn't mind getting out the Vidalcan Orrery next turn, so that after I get it out, if I ever need to return the Selenia, and I can just recast it if I need to. If I don't need to recast it, I can use the Exquisite Blood and get that out in response to someone dealing damage to somebody else. That would be kind of cool. Allow us to gain some life. Make sure that we don't die to normal non-commander damage. Although, yeah, right now commander damage is certainly the big threat here at the table. Right now, I feel pretty good. I think we're in a good spot at the moment. Sky Shroud Claim. Okay, so that will allow them to get a few more lands. Currently, they're missing red and green, so I wouldn't be surprised if they just grab 2 red-green sources to allow them to produce that mana. Because, yeah, right now, they're definitely lacking that mana. I mean, obviously, the Carpet of Flowers and the Arcane Sanctum can make whatever mana they want, but in terms of lands, like, they don't have that mana that they need. So, yeah, that Sky Shroud Claim is really going to help them out here, allowing them to grab the lands that they need in order to have the mana that they want. All right, so they're going to go grab a Taiga. They're also going to grab a Tropical Island, try to reduce the life loss they're paying for shock lands. I guess they just need a lot of blue mana. Could also be a very control-heavy deck, potentially. We'll see where this turns out. Again, I am most afraid here of the Niv Mizzet deck. They've got a pretty scary board state just with these 2 creatures. If you're playing a combat-based deck, Aurelia can just double output your damage. Or at the very least, just give you vigilance to your creatures. And that versatility is huge. Definitely pretty huge. If you want to be able to deal damage and then have plenty of blockers, too, to block anybody mad that you attack them, like Aurelia can do that. So not only as commander, but just as part of the 99 can really do a lot of cool stuff. The Carpet of Flowers no longer can really add mana because nobody here at the table has blue mana anymore. So I'm kind of curious to see where this goes. I'm also wondering, what are they going to use that Fractured Identity on? I'm kind of curious. They're going to use the Hull Breach, getting rid of our Sphere of Safety and their Sword of Fire and Ice. Now, we don't really have any answers to that, and so that's just going to go away. That Sword of Fire and Ice was huge for them. That was what was allowing them to get past these blockers. So I wonder if this is going to be hard for us to get past this point. They've got right now the Teferi Hero of Dominaria. Looks like they're going to go ahead and use the +1 to draw a card and untap up to 2 lands at their next at the end step. Okay, so that's not too bad. What do we want to do? Again, if they don't attack us, then we can play out the Vidalcan Orrery. Maybe we draw into something better. Let's see what we find. I would not mind at all finding a board wipe here. Looks like they're going to attack with both of these creatures. I think they're attacking with both of them at us. Let's take a look. It's what it looks like, at least. Looks like, yeah, they're going to attack both of them at us. So we're going to go ahead, when we go to blocks here, we are going to put the Selenia in front of the Niv Mizzet. And after that, we're going to say, okay. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and pay the 2 life, return it to our hand, so that way we don't get any damage dealt to us. So pay the 2 life, return it to our hand. And I think the reason that I like to go for this here is, if that's what they were wanting us to do, if they were just wanting to make sure that we had to return the Selenia back to our hand, then now they're free to attack over at Zadok with their 7/7. But that means that their 7/7 would be blocked. So I wonder if they're okay with just having the Aurelia up as a blocker. I mean, these creatures can get pretty big. I think they'd probably want to reset their commander. Let's see what happens. I mean, maybe they're just trying to get rid of the Selenia so they don't have to worry about their Teferi dying, potentially. Yeah, it looks like, yeah, they're going to attack with both of these over at us again. Okay, so we are going to be taking quite a bit of damage here. All right, we're going to go down to, what is that, 11 here, so that's going to be 14. So, yeah, next turn could be potentially life-ending. I do think, so here's something I can bet on. I bet you Zadok is going to attack them. We can gain the life. The commander damage is definitely a problem. I don't know if we've got an answer here. I think what we've got to do... All right, yeah, they're going to go ahead, try to add mana again, but again, we don't have any islands. So what can we do? I think our next plan, we could go for the Blood Gift Demon. That could trade with the Aurelia, but it means that we'd be taking potentially lethal damage from the Niv Mizzet, which is not good enough anymore. That's definitely not going to be good enough. We need to have a blocker for the Niv Mizzet. I think the best thing here is Selenia. At least we just get to return it to our hand. But that would still be lethal. Oh, I'm sorry. No, it would be lethal because we'd be paying life from our lands. The damage here plus the life loss here, it would definitely be game over for us. So what can we do that allows us to survive? Well, we've got the Darksteel mutation. That might be it. That might be what we were looking for. We put the mutation onto the Niv Mizzet Reborn. We've got 4 mana left over. Yes, they can hit us twice with the Aurelia, but that's not going to be lethal. So I think we're okay with that. Let's go ahead and do that. Put that over here. We'll pay the whites here from the Tainted Pact, and let's go ahead and use the Swamp here. Try not to pay too much life. We're going to cast the Darksteel mutation. This means now that with the Darksteel mutation on board, we don't have to worry about that quite so much. All right, so this is now a 0/1 indestructible insect. It is a 1/2 because of the Mirari's Wake. But again, 1/2, I don't mind taking 2 commander damage. That is not quite as big of a deal. Other than that, we've got 4 mana. Do we play out the Tainted Sigil? I mean, we'd be losing 3 life to play it out there. And, you know, truth be told, we're not really going to be using it all that well. Do we play out the Vidalcan Ori, again, losing 3 life? I mean, I guess so. Let me see. This is a bit of a risk here. If we go for this, would it be better just to draw 2 cards? I don't think so. I think it's better to get down the Vidalcan Orrery because that allows us to flash in the Exquisite Blood next turn. I think that's going to be a big deal. All right, so we're going to go to the main phase is where we need to be. We'll go ahead and play out the Vidalcan Orrery. I think, again, this is a little risky, but I think this is the right move. This allows us to flash out our Exquisite Blood in response to a big damage-dealing attack to somebody else. Which, you know, now that Niv Mizzet's gone, I mean, they probably are just going to attack us for 8 with the Aurelia. They already mentioned, or we already saw, rather, that they are afraid more of us than of the Cat deck. Which I think is definitely the wrong choice here. We're not doing anything quite yet. I mean, we might be able to get back in this if we're lucky, but it's definitely not anywhere as likely as it is going to be for this Cat deck. Because this Cat deck, I mean, they can just output so much damage. They have enough mana, I believe, for Arabo now and for the activated ability. Let me see. Arabo costs... How much does Arabo cost? Let's take a look. Arabo costs 5 mana. So let's see. There's 5 right there. Yeah, plus the 3. No problem. Oh, they even get it for 1 less. So they have 2 mana left over. Oh, definitely they would have a way to get around things. Having Trample is going to be huge here. They're going to go for a Creeping Renaissance, returning cards from their graveyard. I guess they're going to be returning creatures, I would assume. Maybe enchantments, because they've got the Mirari's Wake in there. Looks like they're going to choose artifacts to bring back the Sword of Fire and Ice. Bit of an interesting choice since they don't have the mana that they need to cast it and then re-equip it. Like I said, I would have definitely gone for the Arabo there, because you could have given, let's see, +3 to the Bronze Hide. That would turn into a 7/7. Then you double it up to a 14/14 Trampler. Like, I'm pretty sure this Aurelia is not going to be wanting to block that. You get to deal 14 damage to Cinderid. That sounds really good here. And it's got Vigilance, so you get to keep it up as a blocker on top of that. Now, nothing here has Reach, right? Yeah, this does not give Reach. Just gives Vigilance and the +1/+1. When it dies, you get to put enchantment onto something to give it indestructible. Yeah, they could technically give this indestructible, but again, it doesn't have reach, so I don't know that it's going to really matter. They're going to try to gain the life again, but again, the Erebos is going to shut that down, so yeah, I think one interesting choice from Cinderid attacking us instead of the Cat player, and then following that up with one interesting choice from Sadek, where they're, oh, looks like they're going to attack with both of these creatures over at the Teferi. If they decide to block here with the 4/5 on the 4/4, then they can just give it indestructible in response, keep it around, and deal the Aurelia 4 damage, which is pretty close to lethal. It doesn't really matter here, I think. But yeah, they can keep this around. The other thing here is that the Sacred Cat can kill the Teferi if they don't. Yeah, like they either lose the Teferi or the Aurelia here. They've got to decide which one's more important. And really, in my opinion, I think it's probably going to be the Aurelia. So yeah, it looks like they're going to say no blocks here. And they're not even going to block here with the Aurelia, which I think is kind of weird. I don't know why you wouldn't just force them to use up that mana. Now they can just use that later if they'd like. Okay, well, that's fine. Not exactly sure what's going on with our opponents. But then again, we're not playing super tightly anyways either. We missed out on one of our Erebos draw triggers, but I'm not super regretting it at the moment, being at 11. I think we're probably doing okay here. They're going to go for the Utter End on the Dark Seal mutation. That could potentially mean that we are dead here to the commanders. Now, currently, Zadok has the open mana. We've already seen them use one of their removal spells in the swords. So, if I were a betting man, and I'm not saying whether I'm not or if I am or not, but if I were a bettor, I would be betting that Niv Mizzet will be attacking us twice this turn to kill us. Then again, they could just attack us once with both of those creatures, and that would kill us also. They could put us behind the 8 ball, though, if they wanted to attack us just with the Aurelia twice and attack twice with the Niv Mizzet over at Zadok. That's another option. If they do it that way, we go down to 3, and we really can't activate both of our mana sources. We're stuck at 5 mana. Now, having the Vidalcan Ori out there, I'll be honest, is kind of nice. But yeah, it looks like they're going to take us out with the first combat here, and that is game over for us. We tried our best, but just couldn't get there. All right, well, that's how it works out sometimes. So we are dead here. We'll go ahead and say good game to our opponents. Good game. So let's see what happens here from Zadok. They're going to go and attack with both of their creatures here in the second combat over at Zadok. So let's see if Cinderhead can manage to close this game out. Now they've got 4 cards in hand. This could be pretty interesting. Let's take a look. Let's see what happens from here. One interesting thing though too is now that they've killed us, Zadok can gain the life back with the Sacred Cat. Although in a way it doesn't really matter if they're trying to win with commander damage. The Sacred Cat doesn't matter how good it is. It's not going to be helpful at all. So let's see what Zadok does here. They've got a lot of mana. They can definitely go for the Arabo play again. But we'll see if that even matters in this situation. Yeah, I mean, again, they still have that Fractured Identity. We'll see if they even use that on anything. Did they discard that here? I wonder if they've even discarded it. Let me just take a look at their graveyard. Because they've been doing a lot of stuff. It looks like, yeah, they haven't played it yet. So that's still in hand. They have played out the Teferi. They've played out the Kaya now. They've played the Hull Breach and the Miraris. But yeah, so that's the last known card in hand is the Fractured Identity. They've got the mana for it. They can always use that to get one of their, basically to steal one of their opponent's things. But is there anything out here that they really want to steal? I don't think so. I think for right now, everything is okay for them. And looks like they are probably going to be closing this out. Yeah, they're going to go and use the Fractured Identity to target their Bronze Hide. So that will exile it. They don't have to worry about that death trigger. And so now from this, I'm sorry, what happened to their Niv Mizzet? I missed that. Their Niv Mizzet is gone, and I'm not sure exactly how that happened. Let me just take a look here back in the chat. Let's see what happened. Is there something that they used with Kaya? They got rid of their own creature. Let me take a look. They used that. Yeah, they did exile. Yeah, they exiled the Niv Mizzet. It looks like they're blinking it with Kaya. Kaya can blink those creatures pretty easily. All right, so Herald's Horn is going to allow them to look at the top of their deck. But this is a pretty bad situation for Zadok. They don't really have any ways to get around these blocking creatures except for casting out their commander and then using the 3 mana to give it trample. But even then, they really can't trample over for all that much. And with the Niv Mizzet coming back, when is it? At the end step? Let me just take a look here at the Kaya. Beginning of your next upkeep. So they'll be able to get more cards, but they won't be able to attack out with that Niv Mizzet just yet. Unless they've got a lot of ways to give creatures haste. So there's not a whole bunch of cards that are 2-colored that allow you to give haste to creatures. There's the, what's that one? It's the red-green one that allows you to sacrifice it to give it +2/+2. I'm blanking on the name right now. But that's one that they could be finding. It depends on if they're playing that here or not. The Cat Nation still has a full grip. Yeah, they haven't really used a whole lot of cards in this game, and that's one of the things. Card advantage is nice, but if you die with those cards in hand, it's not so nice. So you gotta really play out those cards to do stuff. Let's see what Zadok decides to do here. They've got their Arabo. They can give +3/+3 to this 3/2, and then give it plus, what would that be? +6/+6, so that'd be 12 trample damage. They have 11 here. That would actually be enough to make the Kahira be dead to a triple block. But with that Sword of what is this? The Sword of Sinew and Steel. They can attack, get rid of the Kaya, but right now that Bronzehide will definitely be able to block this creature here. And it looks like also the Rashmi too, if they wanted to block either one of those. They cannot block with the Aurelia though, because it's got protection from a red. Now artifacts they can get rid of, probably going to be the Soul Ring. Planeswalkers, obviously the Kaya, that's their only one. I like the Creeping Renaissance for backup card advantage. That is definitely true here. The Creeping Renaissance is one of my favorite recursion cards. I mean, there's a lot that I really like. Creeping Renaissance, I like Seasons Pass. I've been actually liking Praetor's Council more. I used to hate it. I thought it was way too expensive, way too slow. But in my previous games, like it's been really powerful. You can use it to get it back. If you've got enough mana to cast it and something else, like it can do some real work all in one turn. They've also got another sword here, Sword of Light and Shadow. Now they can gain life. That could potentially be important, but they don't have that out on their creature. So let's see if Cinderred cares more about the Kaya and the Soul Ring than they care about either one of these two creatures. I'm assuming so. That's definitely what it looks like it's going to be. I have a feeling they're going to block with one of them. Potentially they could block with both, because blocking with both would trade one of these creatures for the Sacred Cat. So that definitely seems like the right move to me. The difference is, though, you'd be losing the Rushme. If that's really important to you, then then that's not something you're going to want to do. And it looks like they do care about the Rushme. They're just going to chump block with the Bronzehide. It's going to create an aura, which allows them to give Indestructible to one of their creatures. Bronzehide Cat, I hardly knew ye, says Cinderred. All right, they're going to go ahead and create an aura. Well, what happened to the aura? Where did the aura go? Did I miss something? They should have put an aura on something. Hold on a second. Bronzehide Lion. I missed something. When Bronzehide Lion dies, return it to the battlefield. It's an aura. Oh, it was a token, so you can't return it to the battlefield. You literally can't return it as an aura because it doesn't exist anymore. It was just a token. Okay, never mind. That's no big deal. I don't know if they even needed the Indestructible here. Returning the Niv Mizzet here at their control. Okay, so that's not quite so problematic. They're gonna get that back onto the battlefield. They can grab a bunch more cards into the hand. Let's take a look. They put the Vindicate and Scarab God into their hand. They must have gotten a pretty bad revelation here. Yeah, it looks like mostly lands. Land. And they got monocolored. So yeah, they only got two cards here that they could choose. The Scarab God and Vindicate. So I'm a little bit worried that the Vindicate here is going to be able to get rid of something. Like, I'd be assuming they're going to use it to get rid of one of these swords. The Scarab God can start getting back those creatures from their graveyard to have as blockers against this cat army. Yeah, I really see Zadok going to be having a hard time getting through to Cinderred here. Let's see if it pays out. Cinderred did attack us instead of Zadok, so it's all a matter of if they think that we were the bigger threat. If they lose to Zadok, it might have been the wrong choice to hit us first. I personally think we weren't as threatening. Looks like they're going to go for the Anguished Unmaking, targeting the Sword of Sinew and Steel. That means they could go for the Vindicate to target the other sword. And that means that the Creeping Renaissance could return all three swords to their hand. But that might be too slow. They might not have enough time to redeploy out all those swords. And actually, they only get two swords back because the Anguished Unmaking exiles one of them. So they only have two swords in the graveyard at the moment. Looks like they've got, actually, no, they've got the other one was exiled. Yeah, so they've only got the Sword of Light and Shadow in the graveyard anyways. They can't really use that Creeping Renaissance to a lot of effect here. In terms of creatures, they've only got the Leonin War Leader, but that is a pretty good one to copy with the Scarab God, I will admit. Attacking with that and creating two 1/1s to attack as well, not a bad idea. They could also target creatures out of their own graveyard, like Kuranos could be a pretty good one to target. They could target a couple of other things here too. So let's see what they decide to go for. They're going to make each opponent discard a card, and they're going to draw a card here. All right, so that's going to mean Zadok's going to go down to 4 cards in the hand, discarding the Loxodon Warhammer. Okay, that's pretty interesting. That I would have definitely assumed they would have wanted to use. The Niv Mizzet can't attack right now. They're taking mostly non-commander damage. I would be assuming that they're going to be trying to gain life as a result. It depends if they have an answer for the Niv Mizzet. If they've got an answer, they're okay. They really need to answer that Aurelia, though. Regardless of which one they answer, the Niv Mizzet or the Aurelia, like, both of them have to go. And if I were them in their situation, like, Aurelia is dealing the combat damage that's non-commander either. like, I think I'd be okay with getting rid of the Niv Mizzet. You know, like, we can gain plenty of life, so that Aurelia attacking doesn't really matter. Eventually, we'll get rid of it too. But yeah, this is a pretty bad spot that the Zadok is in. I think Cindered's trying to close out this game. We saw them get a pretty big advantage, and we really didn't do anything to stop them. We didn't really have any options in our hands for stopping them, but we did see Zadok kind of go slow on the attacking, and kind of, I hate to say this, but I think a little bit inefficient too, where they weren't really dealing the total output damage they could have. They could have attacked for 14. I remember at that one point there was a turn where they could have attacked for 14. If they chump blocked with their Aurelia, they would have taken just 9 instead. So they probably would have just taken the whole 14. They're going to go ahead and replay out the sword, so that's one step of the situation here. They can get around all blockers with that sword. The question is, can they make their creature lethal? They can play out a Rabo, but they're not going to have enough mana to actually activate that 3 mana ability. So let's see what they cast out here. They've got 5 mana. Are they casting out a 6-drop cat or some other 5-drop spell? Let's take a look. Attacking for 7 here is not going to be a huge deal. Keeper of Fables. Okay, so they can draw cards off of that. That's not bad. But yeah, with that Niv Mizzet being able to swing into them for lethal, they've got to have an answer for that 1 white mana. Otherwise, I don't see them getting out of this. Like, this is it. This is the Niv Mizzet being able to attack twice next turn and kill them. This doesn't have reach, right? Yeah, no reach. Maybe they're just trying to draw into an answer. Like, they're trying to draw here with the sword, trying to draw with the Keeper of Fables, just trying to draw whatever they can to get out of the situation. The Kaya, they definitely could get it down to 1, so they could only use that -1 ability or the 0, but either way, it's not going to be looking too good here. I have a feeling that that Cindered's going to be able to wrap up this game no problem. Yeah, so that was a pretty interesting game. I definitely like this deck. I think Unspokenblood has really chosen a powerful commander that you can do a lot of really cool, like, janky stuff that your opponents have probably never seen. Like, how many opponents can say that they've seen a Repay in Kind played in Commander, like, or a Soul Conduit? You just don't see those types of cards very often, and so I think that's why Selenia is definitely a really cool, really fun commander to play. Certainly not able to beat Soul Ring, Arcane, Signet, Carpet of Flowers, Mirori's Wake, all very early on, combined with a commander that can draw upwards of like 7 cards. I mean, the worst case scenario is your opponent can draw 10 cards off of just casting a 5-drop commander. So with that in mind, I mean, we were really up against the wall here. I don't know if we even had a chance. We didn't really even have a fair shot here up against the Niv Mizzet, but that's how it is sometimes. Commander is all about occasionally those games where you really can't do much anyways. We did see one opponent dying from commander damage. It looks like we might be seeing a second opponent dying from commander damage here. I think the only reason we didn't die commander damage is because we've been paying so much life throughout this game, but what can we say? We can't really do anything about that anyways. They had the D-Spark, so even if they had a reach creature here, they would have been able to exile something. Yeah, a lot of removal from Cindered, but that's just how it works. When you're looking at specifically colors or cards that are 2-colored, you will find a lot of spot removal. For whatever reason, they love printing spot removal that's exactly 2 colors. I'm not sure why WotC does that, but that's what they usually do with Niv Mizzet. So I'll keep that in mind. Next time I see Niv Mizzet, be prepared. This is probably going to be a very controlling deck. Maybe even playing a commander that can kind of close out the game. Right now it's in 2 turns. Without the Mirori's Wake and in the Aurelia, it'd be 4 turns. So definitely pretty powerful. I bet you they're playing Ember Cleave in there. Ooh, Time Twister? So it looks like now they're saying, hey, you got the answer or you don't. I'm potentially giving you the option of getting into that type of card. Looks like they had no responses here. Let's see if now they've got that 1-drop card that allows them to deal with the Niv Mizzet. Of course, Cindered's going to go ahead and get down the Mana Crypt. Doesn't really matter at this point, just the extra mana for free. Let's see what else they decide to go for here. Yeah, this is being pretty interesting. I mean, there's a lot of weird things that have been happening all game. I thought at one point we were okay, but it looks like we're not. They're going to go ahead and get rid of the Vindicate, and or use the Vindicate to get rid of the Sacred Cat. Abrupt Decay to get rid of the last creature, the Kahira. So now they can attack with all these creatures. There are no blockers over on Zadok's field. Yeah, a lot of spot removal, especially with that Time Twister. They found a lot more, too. Alright, so Coronis is going to go ahead and come down. It is a creature thanks to their devotion, which just goes to show how much of a board presence they actually have. They can go and attack here with the first attack. I believe they die here in the first attack. Let me see, that's 13 plus 7. That's 20, so not quite. That's going to be them down to 4. So the second attack with any of their 1 creatures. Looks like they're going to use the Swords to Plowshares. I'm assuming they're going to use it on their command. They didn't use it on the commander? That is really strange. So now they die as a result. Okay then. Alright. So they could have survived here if they had used the Swords to Plowshares on the commander instead. Oh, although I guess, do they even survive? Let me see. They would have taken... No, they would have still been dead because they would have taken 4 plus 3 plus 6. That's 13. Plus another 13. That would have been 26. They were only at 24, so that is definitely going to be game over for them. Alright, so yeah, it doesn't really matter where they use that Swords to Plowshares. Ultimately, Cinderred wins the match, and that is it for this video. So thank you so much for everybody. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you especially to my patrons like Unspokenblood, who support me every month at patreon.com/magicalhacker, and I give them a monthly video or some other type of perk that you can see over there on that site. Thank you so much to everybody, and I will see you guys next time. Stay awesome.